Welcome to Flipping Fit. This video has been put together for our clients to introduce them to our 10 essential body preparations to warm themselves up for gymnastics training. Firstly, we start off with some rope skipping. So 3 to 5 minutes of rope skipping is what's ideal, just to get the blood moving and also to work the calves and the ankles and the feet for rebounding in gymnastics. After you're skipping, find yourself a nice sturdy wall where you can place your hands against and stretch out your calves. When you're stretching your calves, ideally you want to try to have your feet fairly parallel, but it's also useful to move your knee across your foot in different directions to possibly stretch different parts of the calf. Moving the foot in closer and bending the knee actually stretches more into the soleus muscle. And then you can also try pressing your toe up against the wall with a straight knee to further stretch into the calf, alternating legs. Moving on to pec stretching. So we like to stretch out the front of the chest and shoulder for all of our arms overhead work that we do in gymnastics. So place your arm at a sort of a 90-90 bend to the shoulder against the wall with your palm and your forearm flat. And you can move your arm a little higher, a little lower around the shoulder joint to stretch again different parts of the chest muscle and shoulder area. So wherever you feel like you are a little bit tight. Moving on to stretching out the upper back. So what we want to do here is have the foam roller placed underneath the thoracic area, and it's essentially across the shoulder blades where is comfortable for you. Just support the weight of your head back in your hands with your fingers linked, and try and open your elbows out to get a little bit of a stretch into the chest area as well. Moving down to the hips and groin. So next we want to go on to the high and low sumo stretch. So just having the feet nice and wide, ideally bending the knees at 90-90 from the hip. So the high sumo is with hands resting on the knees, and then we move down to the low sumo where we've got the elbows resting on the knees, which just drops the hips below knee level. So you should be feeling a stretch into your groin, your inner thigh area, and working on opening up the legs for any cartwheeling type actions. Moving on to the frog stretch. So this is just a variation or an alternative to the sumo. So similar position, 90-90 bend at the knee, from the hip. This time we've got the knees resting on some sliders just to provide some movement across the floor to get into the position. Again, in this position you can move the hips around, so move them a little bit up and down to stretch different parts. Moving back up to the wrists now, so we want to do some wrist rises. So on the preparation here, we're trying to encourage a bend in the first knuckle of the hand, where we're pressing down through the fingers and raising the wrist up and down to strengthen the forearm muscles. Dumbbell lateral flies. So it's forehead resting on the ground when we do these. Arms are locked out, so elbows are straight, and the movement is the shoulder blades across the upper back. So we're trying to lift up and down as high as we can without resting the weight on the floor. Moving to connecting to the core. So what we want to do here is start with a flat body against the floor, and then we're lifting up to our dish and back to flat again. So making sure that we're pulling the bottom rib flat to the stomach, we're squashing the lower back into the ground, squeezing through our glutes so that we're deactivating the hip flexors, and keeping that dish as shallow as we can. Turning over into the arch snaps. So again, body flat to the ground, lifting up and down. Make sure we keep the head moving with the arms as one unit, and we're keeping the body nice and long. Moving into our handstand stages. So we want to firstly start here with a progression in front support, aiming for a 1 minute hold. Our second stage 2 progression for handstand is moving into the tuck handstand hold, which is a fully inverted position. So hips and shoulders on top of hands, aiming to hold again for 1 minute. Stage 3 of handstand is moving into the L position. So we have toes resting on the box this time. Again, hips, shoulders above the hands, so fully inverted. Again, holding for 1 minute. Stage 4 is our 3/4 handstand, coming from front support, moving to downward dog, and then walking the feet up the wall as high as we can. Which leads us to our final progression, stage 5 for handstand, which is the full handstand against the wall, where we've got the chin, hips and toes pressing up against the wall to pull our body into the correct handstand shape.